Isaac Newton. 1. Early life and education. 2. The plague years and the annus mirabilis. 3. The Principia Mathematica. 4. Work in optics and the nature of light. 5. Mathematical achievements and the calculus controversy. 6. Alchemy, theology, and mysticism. 7. Public service and the royal mint. 8. Presidency of the Royal Society and later years. 9. Legacy and impact on science. 10. Philosophical outlook and human dimension. 1. Early life and education.
Isaac Newton was born on January 4, 1643, in Woolsthorpe, Lincolnshire, England, just months after the death of his father, also named Isaac Newton. He was a premature infant, small and weak, and not expected to survive. His mother, Hannah Ayscough Newton, remarried when Isaac was 3, leaving him in the care of his grandparents. This early separation contributed to a sense of isolation and independence that would shape his character. Newton began his formal education at the King's School in Grantham, where he showed little initial promise. However, his interest in mechanics and drawing soon became evident. He constructed sundials, windmills, and mechanical devices as a child, often demonstrating a fascination with the natural world. In 1661, he entered Trinity College, Cambridge, as a subsizar, meaning he worked to support his education. Cambridge at the time was steeped in Aristotelian philosophy, but Newton gravitated toward the more modern works of Galileo, Descartes, and Kepler.
2. The plague years and the annus mirabilis.
In 1665, the Great Plague forced the closure of Cambridge University, and Newton returned to Woolsthorpe for what would become the most productive period of his life. Over the course of 2 years, often referred to as his annus mirabilis, or Year of Wonders, Newton made groundbreaking discoveries in calculus, optics, and gravitation. He developed what would later be called differential and integral calculus. Although he did not publish his results at the time, in optics, Newton conducted experiments with prisms, discovering that white light is composed of a spectrum of colors. Perhaps most famously, he formulated the law of universal gravitation, inspired, according to popular lore, by the fall of an apple. These discoveries laid the foundation for modern physics and mathematics, yet Newton, cautious and often secretive, delayed publishing many of his findings, a tendency that would characterize much of his academic life.
3. The Principia Mathematica.
In 1687, Newton published his seminal work, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, commonly known as the Principia. This monumental text synthesized his work in mechanics and gravitation and is widely considered one of the most important scientific books ever written. The Principia established the 3 laws of motion that now bear Newton's name. 1. An object in motion remains in motion unless acted upon by an external force. 2. The rate of change of momentum is proportional to the applied force. 3. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Newton also demonstrated that the force responsible for an apple falling to the ground is the same as that which governs planetary motion. His law of universal gravitation provided a unified framework that explained both terrestrial and celestial phenomena, marking the birth of classical mechanics. The Principia faced resistance from some quarters, but ultimately earned Newton widespread acclaim. It elevated him to the forefront of the scientific community and established the framework for physical science for centuries to come.
4. Work in optics and the nature of light.
Newton's contributions to optics were equally revolutionary. He demonstrated through experiments that white light is not pure, but composed of various colors that can be separated and recombined. His use of a prism to decompose sunlight into a spectrum laid the foundation for the science of spectroscopy. He also built the first practical reflecting telescope, now known as the Newtonian telescope, which used mirrors instead of lenses to eliminate chromatic aberration. This invention significantly improved the quality of astronomical observations. In his 1704 book Optics, Newton explored the nature of light and color and proposed a particle theory of light. While the wave theory would later gain prominence, Newton's insights were foundational. His meticulous experiments and emphasis on empirical observation significantly advanced the field of optics.
5. Mathematical achievements and the calculus controversy.
Although Newton developed calculus during the plague years, he refrained from publishing his work for decades. In the meantime, German mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz independently developed a similar mathematical framework and published his findings first, sparking a bitter dispute over priority. The calculus controversy polarized the scientific community, with English mathematicians rallying behind Newton and many continental scholars supporting Leibniz. The Royal Society, under Newton's presidency, conducted a biased investigation that favored Newton. Despite the acrimony, both Newton and Leibniz contributed significantly to the development of calculus. Newton's notation and approach differed from Leibniz's, but modern calculus owes much to both men. The controversy, however, tarnished Newton's reputation for objectivity and highlighted his capacity for vindictiveness.
6. Alchemy, theology, and mysticism.
In addition to his scientific pursuits, Newton devoted considerable time to alchemy, theology, and biblical chronology. He wrote extensively on topics such as the transmutation of metals, the philosopher's stone, and the interpretation of apocalyptic scripture. Much of this work remained unpublished during his lifetime. Newton's interest in alchemy was not unusual for his era, and he viewed it as a path to understanding the natural world. He believed that divine truths could be discovered through careful study of both scripture and nature. In theology, Newton held unorthodox views, rejecting the doctrine of the Trinity and subscribing to Arianism. He kept these beliefs private to avoid censure. His religious writings reveal a deeply spiritual man who saw his scientific work as uncovering the laws set forth by God.
7. Public service and the Royal Mint.
In 1696, Newton was appointed Warden of the Royal Mint, a position that allowed him to apply his analytical skills to practical problems. He was later promoted to Master of the Mint, a role he held until his death. Newton oversaw major reforms in England's coinage system, helping to combat widespread counterfeiting. He introduced stricter standards for coin production and personally conducted investigations that led to the prosecution of counterfeiters. His tenure at the Mint was marked by diligence and integrity. It also brought him financial stability and political influence. Newton was knighted by Queen Anne in 1705, becoming Sir Isaac Newton.
8. Presidency of the Royal Society and later years.
In 1703, Newton was elected President of the Royal Society, a position he held for over 2 decades. Under his leadership, the Society became a central institution for scientific research and communication. During this period, Newton remained active in scientific debates, defending his theories against critics such as Robert Hooke and later, the followers of Leibniz. His later years were marked by ongoing disputes, but also by continued reverence and admiration. Newton never married and had few close relationships. He lived with his niece Catherine Barton, whose husband, John Conduit, became his biographer. Newton continued to work and write into old age. Though his productivity declined, he died on March 31, 1727, and was buried with great honor in Westminster Abbey, a rare tribute for a scientist.
9. Legacy and impact on science.
Isaac Newton's impact on science is immeasurable. His formulation of the laws of motion and universal gravitation provided the foundation for classical mechanics. These principles governed scientific thought until the advent of Einstein's theory of relativity. In the 20th century, his work in optics transformed the understanding of light and color, while his development of calculus opened new frontiers in mathematics and engineering. Newton's methodical approach and insistence on empirical verification became hallmarks of modern science. The Newtonian paradigm shaped the Enlightenment and influenced philosophers, scientists, and political thinkers. His emphasis on rationality and natural laws helped define the scientific revolution and paved the way for the technological advancements of the modern age.
10. Philosophical outlook and human dimension.
Despite his austere public image, Newton was a complex and deeply introspective individual. He wrestled with profound questions about existence, morality, and divine providence. His extensive writings on theology and alchemy reveal a man searching for deeper truths beyond the physical world. Newton viewed the universe as a grand, orderly creation governed by mathematical laws. But he also believed in divine intervention and purpose. He saw science and religion not as opposing forces, but as complementary paths to understanding reality. While often solitary and prone to conflict, Newton's intellectual rigor, creativity, and vision reshaped humanity's understanding of the cosmos. His legacy endures not only in the equations and theories he left behind, but in the spirit of inquiry and discovery that he inspired. Sir Isaac Newton remains a towering figure in the history of science, a man whose genius bridged the mystical and the empirical, the theoretical and the practical, and whose influence continues to illuminate the path of scientific exploration.
Subscribe to my channel.